For those of you who took part in our recent 9-part series of how to improve your warehouse, you'll recognize our next speaker is the host. Jeff is a systems consultant at LogX. He continually puts together commercially sound business improvement solutions using automation, machinery, software, and other productivity improvement tools. An aerospace engineering undergrad with over 10 years business experience and a master's in business management. Jeff is a solutions-focused professional, having worked on projects across a wide range of industries. Over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Daniel. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today on transforming your warehouse to B2C. My name is Jeffrey Triantifillo from LogX, and it's my pleasure to be speaking to you today about this very timely topic. We've got a lot to get through in this session, from understanding the new normal, the shift towards a lower order profile, orders associated with B2C fulfillment, and how this presents a challenge to traditional warehousing operations. Today, we'll discuss how to pivot your people, processes, and systems to minimize your cost per order and increase your outbound throughput, and therefore future-proof your operation. So let's start with why we're here. Online commerce, or online shopping, or e-commerce as it's referred to. Now more than ever, it's the new normal. Last year, as we all know, we saw a big change in market conditions, and the pandemic hit retail stores really hard. Bricks and mortar retail assets suffered, and the pandemic literally forced store closures. People weren't allowed to go to stores anymore, and this meant that online sales skyrocketed. And not just for the traditional channels. We saw that most businesses had to adapt, and B2C distribution became the only way for them to connect and to fulfill their customer orders. And warehousing came to the rescue. We became very familiar with terms such as pop-ups, dark stores. And for those who don't know, a dark store is basically, mimicking your retail store, but in a dark environment, in a warehouse environment, and picking customer orders for online from that. And as an industry traditionally accustomed to B2B channels, this was a big shift. Whereas we're traditionally focused on, sending orders to stores, all of a sudden we were focused on this client fulfillment center, this client fulfillment methodology. And we've become very familiar with these terms as well. So these client fulfillment centers refer to a distribution center or warehouse that's been set up directly to just fulfill customer orders directly to their homes. And micro fulfillment centers, another buzzword, is also about actually using your brick and mortar asset, the back of the store of that asset, to fulfill these customer orders directly. And what we saw was that multiple fulfillment channels was key for a business to be successful and to continue operating through these extremely harsh conditions. But what's really changed in warehousing? Now, I do harp on a little bit about this. I've always talked about the warehouse being the ugly duckling of the organization for so long. Most businesses have focused on the flashy stores and increasing the customer experience there. What's in the shop front? How does the customer feel when they walk into your store? But all of a sudden, when the store doors are closed and people can't go there anymore, what do? Now, the lean thinking that's come from manufacturing has helped really just to drive efficiency in a warehouse and reduce the cost, because warehouses have been seen as a cost driver as opposed to a value added to a business. But now that we're fighting for the ultimate customer experience, things have to change. Now that battle has gone online, the Amazon effect, which is a term that was coined about 10 years ago when Amazon started using automation to decrease their order fulfillment times. This Amazon effect has now changed the competitive landscape, essentially. As a warehouse, if we're now competing online for our customers' attention and for their business, it's all about the speed of fulfillment. Now, as you can see on the graphic on this page, the biggest shift for a warehouse physically is that change in thinking from picking pallets and sending them to stores to now picking a couple of items, putting them in a carton or a satchel and sending it directly to a customer's home. This creates so much more work. And this is the big mindset shift that businesses and warehouses must go through in order to change to B2C. But there are some things that haven't changed, and these are those fundamental first principles. The 5 rights of logistics are still true. You still need to get the right product to the right customer at the right time, in the right quantity, and for the right price. And the 7 functions of a warehouse still hold true. You still need to get the product inbound, you need to receive it, you need to put it away, you need to replenish your pick faces, you need to pick it, you need to pack it, and then you need to dispatch it out the door. So the warehouse has now gone from that humble kind of, ugly duckling to a fulfillment superstar. It's really saved a lot of businesses during this time, and things have changed forever. So one of the big things that we try to do with our clients and with anyone we speak to about really adapting to this B2C, to this future mindset, is changing your thinking from a shed to a distribution center. We need to move away from how things have always been done. And something that has really helped the warehousing industry in the last 10 to 15 years, as manufacturing has seriously declined here in Australia, is the application of these traditional manufacturing principles by professionals that have had to move across to warehousing from manufacturing into the warehouse. Redesigning your operations towards lean thinking and making sure that your operation is optimized to meet any changing dispatch order profiles. On top of this, because of the landscape that we have in Australia with high labor costs and high land costs, it's all about reduction in labor dependency through a focus on productivity. And how do we do this? We need to use technology levers to achieve more with less. Now, these days, we've had a huge surge of artificial intelligence and smart information technology systems that have been implemented in the warehouse, and they really do come to the rescue. At Fuzzy LogX, we pride ourselves in being almost synonymous with automation, warehouse automation here in Australia. And mechanization and automation in warehousing has never been more readily available, and you've never had more options. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. But it's important that when you do this, just like this order profile change is causing you to change your mindset, you need to design for ongoing flexibility and scalability. And finally, again, talking about these the data and using data in your operation, we need to evolve from systems of record, which is just looking at historical data, to systems of insight, where we look towards the future and plan for what could happen. Now, let's start at the top, blue sky thinking. What does the ultimate B2C distribution center look like? I believe that, if you have the money and you have the scale, the ultimate B2C distribution center is an integrated materials handling system within it. You've got optimized decant and replenishment systems that allow you to quickly fill your automation with the product that you need to pick. You've got an ASRS storage of some sort with goods to person picking, which we'll delve into a little bit more. And also those specialized packing and dispatch systems to make sure that you get the order out to your customers as quickly as possible, but also with your signature on it, so that they get that experience, which is all coming from opening a box these days or opening a package. And then as part of your, greenfield site, you've got inbound conveyors and outbound robots and vehicles that, move your product around to minimize your labor requirements and maximize your order turnaround times. On top of that, you have a layer of smart warehouse management systems, where every operation in the warehouse is driven by this smart system, which is making real-time decisions based on the data that it's receiving, in real time. And it's integrated with your materials handling system. And this is that layer of software that we call warehouse execution systems or warehouse orchestration systems, where you're taking all the real feeds of data and you're making the best decision on the fly. But it's true, this is for a greenfield DC design, which is what we refer to as when you have the opportunity to build a bespoke DC for you. You get to optimize the flows for inbound and outbound. And one of the things that people do kind of forget a little bit when you move from B2B to B2C is there's quite a big shift in the transport requirements. You're not usually sending big trucks full of pallets to a store anymore. You're sending trucks full of cages to a sorter, which then, sends your product all around the country. But what you do get to do is, build something from the ground up with ergonomics, safety, and traffic management in mind. But unfortunately, not everyone's this lucky. What happens if you need to stay in your current building? Now, we'll take a little bit of a step back. We've seen a lot of emerging trends in warehouse technology, which enable you to stay within your current warehouse and actually improve your operation and adapt it to B2C. So the first one there is that we're finding a lot more smaller to medium enterprise businesses going into automation because the cost of entry has reduced. Things such as mobile automation and AMRs have allowed this access to technology and for a business to start low and scale by adding more robots or more of the system components as they require. We've also got increased access to technology where, Europe and the US felt so far away some time ago. This technology is now readily available on our shores and being implemented as we speak. I mentioned AMRs, but over the last 12 months and with the market conditions that we've seen, we have seen a huge rise in the deployment of autonomous mobile robots, or AMRs as we call them. And that's because of the speed of deployment that you can get, where traditionally you need 12 to 18 months to deliver some of these traditional automation systems. AMRs can be deployed in a matter of 4 to 5 months, depending on your application. We've also seen the emergence of more and more integration partners, which are allowing us to take the best different types of technologies that we find and group them together and have a single point of contact. Where traditionally, again, you had your big players, they owned all the technology and you really only had, 4 or 5 options. Now there's many more options and many more integration partners to choose from. And it's all about that flexibility, competitiveness. More players on the market means that, there's more competitiveness. The increasing speed of innovation is helping us to, meet those challenging requirements. And now we're even taking it to a whole new level. And this is something that's still waiting to kind of find its feet here in Australia. But the investment has gone so low that we're even seeing pay-as-you-use models, robots as a service, automation as a service. The future is bright, and it's never been a better time to be looking for automation. Automation is now really in reach for everyone. Where traditionally, and again, we just kind of touch on this real quickly, but traditionally automation felt beyond grasp for most people because of it was capital intensive, there was a huge effort involved, it didn't really change, so that, it wasn't really adaptable or flexible to technology, so therefore there was a higher risk. But now we've got this emerging islands of automation approach. We talked about the different integration partners being able to integrate all these different islands of automation together. But what that means is that by developing these strategic partnerships with other businesses, you can get the right product for and the right automation for your business, or even just the right technologies to adapt and to meet the emerging profiles. So how do we deal with B2C and this changing order profile that we're talking about? I've identified 3 key areas that we're going to look through today, which I believe are key to addressing in order to meet your online customer fulfillment requirements. These 3 are replenishment, order fulfillment, and wave management. Now, when we talk about replenishment, when you're online, it's such a competitive environment that if the customer places the order and it's not available, you may not have the opportunity to fulfill that order as a back order. And we're seeing a lot of businesses feeding their replenishment beast, as I call it, with forecasting, smart forecasting systems that use artificial intelligence and all your historical data and market trends and lots of other fancy things to try to predict what that customer order profile will look like and make sure that that product is available to be picked when it's needed. Secondly, order fulfillment. Now, within the warehouse, order fulfillment usually does get most of the focus when we're talking about automation and improvement. Now, the two key pieces here is, as we spoke about previously, the Amazon effect. What it really did to the market was change the expectation of the customer on how long it takes them to get an order. Where previously they were willing to wait weeks or at least a couple of days for an order. Now they're expecting things to come next day or in a couple of hours even. And it's very important that you focus on your pick and pack processes to optimize your efficiency there to reduce this order turnaround time. And then finally, one of the big challenges that businesses have is wave management. When we talk about waving in an operation, it's how you translate the orders that have come into your business into work that goes into the operation, into the warehouse operation. And, there's a lot of good work that's going into wave management to allow you to group your orders for efficiency in transport or for efficiency in picking. And you need to use data to achieve these insights. So we'll quickly touch on replenishment. Replenishment and your pick phase strategy should be driven by velocity. Now, a lot of businesses these days miss this fundamental first principle. It's all about how fast product moves and having your fastest moving product as close to the door that they're going out of as possible. You need to make sure you get the most out of each move in the warehouse. And if you're able to have velocity driven and seasonality driven pick faces, then you can actually maximize your outbound operation and therefore reduce the lost sale opportunity there. Now, in terms of picking itself, I just thought I'd touch on the first principles very, very quickly, just to remind us what's physically happening in the picking process. Now, traditionally, again, we keep going back to warehouses that used to fulfill orders to stores. When you're fulfilling a whole pallet or multiple pallets of product, it makes sense to pick one order discreetly, and that's what we call discrete picking, and walk the whole pick path. But as the order sizes start to get smaller and you start to get a larger volume of orders overall, it starts to make sense to start looking at other types of picking. And this is where things like batch picking have come into play, where you group product by SKU and then you need to outsort it at your packing bench. Online sales also see a high prevalence of single line orders, which should be picked differently as well. Cluster picking, and the pictures that I have on this slide here, they very much address that cluster picking opportunity, where instead of walking the whole pick face with one order on your trolley or one order on your pallet, you do it with 10, 50, whatever it is, whatever's right for your business, but you walk that pick face and get the maximum number of orders fulfilled at the same time. And then there's other picking types that you can look at, which is zone picking, which relate to different types of automation, and wave picking as well, which are all about your service level agreements with your client and getting those cutoff times addressed as you're fulfilling orders. Now, picking actually makes up about 50% of the labor in most traditional fulfillment warehouses. So when you are looking to reduce your order turnaround time, it's all about optimizing the pick. Now, it's very simple here, but the keys are reducing walking time, because that's where most of that 50% of labor is going in, just walking through your warehouse. And that's why goods to person automation is so good. Reducing touches and handling throughout. So I always see operations that are constantly touching product and moving it throughout in different staging areas. The more touches, the more staging, the more inefficiency in your operation. And then always be thinking about how does your order that you're picking transfer to packing and dispatch where possible. And I see this as a little bit of a nirvana or a best case state. Where possible, you should be looking to pack as you pick. And therefore, by the time you get to the outbound section, all you're worried about is making sure that the right consignment label is there, the right void fill is in your product, and you can send it out. So make sure you engineer your pick path for high productivity. Make sure you increase your hit density. And this requires a lot of data analysis. Hit density and velocity management enables you to determine pick priority. And then look to transition your operation and your operational thinking from man to goods, which is basically that traditional type of picking where you walk to a pick face, to goods to man automation. And even better, and goods to man is also referred to as goods to person or GTP automation. But even better now, we're also seeing what I call GTR or goods to robot automation, which is the picture on the bottom of this screen here. That's the future. Last year, and now I'm just going to play a video, if I can. So last year, you may be, let me start first. You may be aware that there has been quite a big increase and in the technology available for automatic picking. And a lot of it has come down to the grippers. In this video, we can see a nice flexible gripper that's been designed by Soft Robotics to basically pick anything and in quite challenging situations. The each pick is still one of the hardest processes in the warehouse. Last year, in conjunction with Sigma Pharmaceuticals and Canap, Fuzzy Logics was involved in helping to deploy the first automated each picking solution, which is very similar to the one that we're seeing on the video. I believe that towards the end of this video, we have some footage of the actual operation out at Kemps Creek in Sydney. But essentially, this high pick rate robot is able to pick from multiple totes of product into multiple order cartons very quickly. Now we're talking 1,000 to 2,000 units an hour, depending on your order profile. And this is a robot that can be doing this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doesn't take any breaks. Now we can see here these purple totes. This is the operation that was actually commissioned last year here in Australia. It's running today. It's running every single day, and it's running quite well. Now, there is some way to go with this technology. I'm not saying that this is a panacea that will fix all your problems, and it is quite expensive as well. But this is where we're going. Goods to robot automation will be the future. But for now, we need to optimize what we have in terms of our traditional man to goods or goods to person type automation systems. So we'll move on to the next slide. Order packing. So we talked about picking, and tied directly to your picking type or the type of picking that you choose is what order packing solution you choose. Now on this screen, I've just put a couple of different options because every business is different. However, you know, we talked about a batch pick. If you pick products in batches, it means that you then need to do an outsource. So the first picture here that we see is a put wall, as we call it, with lights. And it essentially enables you to do the outsort before the packing bench. You've also got high productivity goods to person stations that enable you to pick directly to the outbound shipper. Like in the Sigma design that we saw in the video previously, product goes directly into an outbound shipper. Therefore, there is no packing process separately. There's also now a high kind of prevalence. We're seeing more and more of these systems in the country, which are these packaging on demand systems where you pick the order and you put it onto a conveyor belt and a box is built around it basically. And there's also a couple of examples here that I've put about micro fulfillment which really just focuses on that picking and packing process and figuring out how does a customer want to get their order. Do I need to put it into a carton, or can I just get them to pick it up in their shopping bags inside a tote, and then I get the tote back? So there's so many different options. It's all about finding the solution that's right for your business. But then you might ask me, there's so many different options. How do I know where to start and what to do? What works for my business? Now, we've talked about the traditional solutions approach, which is expensive. It's fixed. It's a lot of steel that goes into your warehouse and you really can't change what it does. And now we have the islands of automation approach, which are bespoke pieces of technology that you implement to meet specific needs in your warehouse. How do you choose what's best for you? It's all about understanding what you need to achieve in terms of your order fulfillment profile and your service level agreements to your clients. And then at the end of the day, it always comes down to building a business case for improvement, understanding what your current productivity baseline is within your warehouse, what your functionality within your WMS is, and then how much it's going to cost for you to get to where you want to be. And then on top of that, what labor will be saved through the productivity increase of this technology. Offsetting the cost against the labor saving will help you build that business case for improvement. Now, as we start to wrap up, I just wanted to do a quick chat on what's the big end of town doing. Now, as we showed you in the video, pharmaceuticals and pharmaceutical wholesalers have been leading the way for some time with the adoption of highly integrated materials handling systems. But in recent years, we've really seen grocery retail charging forward. The two big names in grocery retail in Australia, Coles and Woolworths, they've announced huge plans. The two pictures that we can see on this screen are, the top one is a micro-fulfillment system that's offered by Takeoff Technologies, who have partnered with Woolworths here in Australia. And they've already deployed 2 micro-fulfillment centres in the back of grocery retail supermarket stores that are now providing that B2C short fulfillment turnaround. And then at the bottom, we can see the large intermodal facility that's being planned here in Sydney by Woolworths with highly integrated systems that, this is the best of automation across the board. And it's geared to address the future market demands. Now, there's big questions that have been asked. Coles and Woolworths have taken quite different stances. Coles has taken more of a centralized approach to their customer fulfillment with large CFC sites announced in a partnership with Ocado, whereas Woolworths have kind of done a bit of both. They've got their large automation sites being deployed, but then they've also got these small micro fulfillment centers. So they're going large. They're really investing in large scale investment to future proof their supply chains. But what they're also doing is helping a lot of new players move into our market here in Australia and give us access to more technology. And that's what I find is really exciting. Now, I feel like there's never been a better time to be in warehousing, to be in warehouse automation, to be in business to consumer or online fulfillment. And I genuinely believe that if you don't adapt your warehouse to B2C, someone else will, because the technology is out there and it's at your disposal. Thank you very much for listening in today. I hope you learned something, and we'll be in touch.
And that concludes our last session of the day. I'd like to say thank you very much to all of our speakers and to all of our sponsors. The exhibition area will remain open till 4 p.m. So if you haven't done already, please make your way over there and speak to the exhibitors about the solutions that they have, which will be perfect for your business. As I stated at the beginning, our next event will be between the 19th and 21st of July, 2022. However, we will be putting on a lot more online content before then. We hope you have a great rest of the week, and we look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Thanks.